name, David Puckett. David, what's your middle name?
David Wayne Puckett.
David, so you sound like David Wayne Puckett. That sounds like a 1950s cowboy star.
Well, I'm darn glad. For many reasons, I'm glad I wasn't born a female. But if I had been, my family was going to name me very traditional Puckett family, Southern. Parthena would have been my name, and if I did Parthena Pitcock Puckett, and I thus would have had middle initials PP or initials PPP. So I am darn glad I didn't become a female.
Parthena, I don't know if I can say it. Parthena, nonetheless.
Parthena Pitcock Puckett, and if you go back 3 generations, there was a Parthena Pitcock, and then there was Davy Crockett Puckett. I'm serious. I can send you the right on Ancestry.com.
I believe you, which is why I said that name just rings that bell that sounds like that old historic, some kind of cowboy I should have read about a long time ago. That took over stagecoaches and saved the world or something. But nonetheless, Stanley Zamor, Florida Supreme Court certified mediator, primary trainer, qualified arbitrator, a bunch of other things. I'm so happy to be joined by one of my colleagues. I actually call him one of my friends as well, David Puckett. And today we're going to have a conversation about different things, but mostly about AI, artificial intelligence, which I have an apprehension of. I'm going to say it up front. I have an apprehension of it because I am a diehard, as Dave loves to say, old school mediator that likes to do the let's sit face to face across the table and hash it out and make things happen. I'm about that. I love that. I think those produce not only, I don't want to say better results, but they provide results where people are definitely more invested and they feel satisfied usually with the process, whether it resolves itself in a number of different ways, from a written settlement agreement to an impasse and goes forward. There's just the synergy and energy that's created, and a very good skilled conflict resolution trained mediator that understands that can use that to create the best process necessary for the parties. Ergo, years, decades in the future, now we have AI. And AI, as you know, is the hot thing. It's jumping all over the place, and it's included all over the place, and it's being pushed down our throats, and even in the mediation realm and field that's happening, so much so that when I do mediation for commercial clients, hundreds of thousands of dollars, $50, I don't care the amount, but I'm hearing from defense and plaintiff side, there are some mediators that want to press that AI button, even on the Zoom, and say, let's use AI in mediation. Let's do that. And I say, time out. I'm not going to do that. And you can't because of certain things. But then again, it has its place. It has its space. And there is an ethical use and utilization of emotional intelligence and AI. And my friend David happens to be, I think, one of the foremost speakers and experts in that area. So, David, I'm going to give it to you for a little bit to tell us what.
Let me respond. First of all, we're obviously not married, but in a marriage, that partnership is like a marriage. The truth in the political world is in the middle. Okay, we can't stop AI. We can be scared by the commercials or this newspaper articles. 80% of the jobs in the next 5 years will be alleviated, done away with because of AI. Now, for sure, it's going to be 80%, but it's going to be above 50%. So any task that's repetitive or common can be replaced. You go back, one of my competitors, I won't mention his name, I don't have his permission, but he's one of the thought leaders in this ODR space. All these, we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. Let's don't forget our roots of how we met: ADR, alternative dispute resolution, then ODR, online dispute resolution. We introduced your and I's partnership into people who've worked with us, TEDR, technology enhanced dispute resolution. In your introduction of yourself, you talk about the human factor, the human touch, and resolving conflicts. There's probably no two people who have more passion and energy than you and I, but yet it's often directed differently and used differently. But I have the utmost respect in that the TDR methodology document, which is being now rewritten to include AI, post-patent. As you know, we got a patent in September of 2023. And so now we're starting to get our message out in public via updating our websites and that. But I'm not scared of AI, but I lean towards you. The practice of it, it's got to start out with baby steps. And Stanley, we've been using AI since we introduced Settle Now in 2013. We just didn't call it AI. And so the misunderstanding is what AI is. So my competitor I was going to refer to, he wrote an article, gosh, time is flying. I want to say it's been 7, maybe even 9 years ago, in American Trial Lawyers Magazine, if I'm correct in my memory. And it was called Silicon Judges. And he advocated in his thoughts that eventually the silicon software combination was going to take away judges in the court. And he sort of advocated because there's no bias. Now we go, none of us, all of us good professionals don't have bias. Yes, we do. I'm sorry, in court, that's why we dress up, to show the court respect. We judge people. We are culturally biased. We're racially biased. We're sexually biased. We're economically. You can't say there's no bias. But in the purest sense, theoretically, because AI is machine learning, you can teach AI bias. And so people who says it's not is wrong. And if you just let, like these movies, that the AI is going to control the world, and that's your biggest fear, it's not unjustified. That's why TDR, even before we started using AI, I've been warned, hey, don't put AI in your new logo. Don't be leading with AI because the legal industry is scared of AI. We're all scared of AI. But we're about the ethical utilization of AI. TDR is technology. We even, if you remember, in our logo for TDR, it's capital T, capital D and R, lowercase e, enhanced. I'm looking at AI, how it can enhance. But you'll remember when you and I did our master's programs, and you did the doctoral program at Nova, we had to take human factors.
Yep.
And human factors are everywhere. And in our utilization, in our product design, our patent design, there's a human overseer. Okay. And if you just let AI go loose, it can be as biased as whoever programs the thing. So we got to nip this. And I know you write articles for the newspapers and that. We've got to get rid of this paranoia of AI. I've recently reached out to one of the largest law firms in this state and to the principal partner of that firm. And I said, can we not get about a dozen large law firms to put in a nonprofit, donate maybe up to $1 million, and we'll issue stipends to graduate students, but not just law graduate students, but graduate students of law, conflict resolution programs like at Nova, okay?
Economics.
MBA programs. These MBA guys are going out and working in these Fortune 500 companies. And don't forget our IT graduate students. They're doing the AI programming. If we can get us academically aligned and get Florida as a thought leader, why should this come from Silicon Valley? Watson comes out of Pennsylvania. Why? It's IBM's, that's kind of hell. Why not Florida? Why can't we lead with the ethical utilization of artificial intelligence in the law and conflict resolution? So we might in this interview seem to be from a divergent perspective. We're really not. The truth is in the middle. But I hope this interview helps everyone understand. Don't fear AI. Control it. Moderate its use, but there's a human element. All right. So thank you.
So now, that's just a little bit of it, but with the use of the TEDR methodology, go into what the T, if you don't mind doing that too much. I know it's patent pending and such is being rewritten, but the thing that we developed, that you basically developed through, and we started to use, how we use artificial intelligence, AI, through the TEDR method. Go into that. And again, I'm gonna promote it too, because I think the channel that you created for this is important. You got to put more work into it. But I think it's something that you started a decade ago that now everyone's catching up to, right? So, but still, it still is what it is. And as you said, it's been going. We've been doing this for a while now. So talk about that a little bit. And then I'm going to talk about.
Well, we're not. We're here. We're not going to use this interview to plug our individual products, but I will have to relate it to some references. So let's start with let's start with TDR. Okay, that's where your question comes from. Okay, I like you. I was trained as a mediator in the mid '80s from one of the founders of this industry. He's credited, and I've seen it written in journals. He created the first mediation center in the United States. Of course, in Florida, I mean Hawaii. Some people don't consider Hawaii United States, but he created the an outreach program at the University of Hawaii for Dr. Becker. Is who I'm speaking of. So
TDR, come back again.
TDR, as you know, let's give a little bit of credit. Dr. Becker, who's been a mentor, Dr. Becker was credited with creating the first community mediation center. He's just like you. He doesn't believe, he believes the human element, the magic of the neutral, okay? And that's what makes mediation, I always refer to as old school mediation, work. Well, Dr. Becker, when I reconnected with him, I guess the year would have been about 2009. It was him that said to me, "What do you think about ODR?" I said, "Oh, what is ODR?" He goes, "Oh, Mr. Technology," because he knew I was from the technology industry. "You don't even know?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Online dispute resolution." Stanley, you've heard me say this before. I sort of had an epiphany. My whole world, I've been a technologist that's also a firm believer in the neutrality and the power of that mediator, the neutral side of that mediator. And I go, "Oh my God, I get it." Okay. But Dr. Becker said online. At that time, this is 12 years ago, 13 years ago, we didn't even have Zoom as a product. It's Skype. We had some video conferencing coming to be, but it was never for me video conferencing only. It was how to use technology in addition to video conferencing to enhance dispute resolution. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. So as you know, as a company, we've distanced ourselves from the brand ODR, the label ODR. ADR, it was a beautiful brand. Alternative dispute resolution. It was supposed to be theoretically an alternative to the legal industry, but it got hijacked. Okay, so now TDR is what we've been pushing for 13 years. We were doing AI in the first version of our product, the initial product called Settle Now. Why? We were importing from Westlaw and Lexis case settlement options and examples that when our disputants were disputing, although they think their dispute is unique, it's not always unique. There are factors of their dispute that divorce, custody, percentage of child custody, alimony if it's Apple, division of assets and liability. It's easy. An algorithm can almost do it, except for the emotional piece. So the original methodology of TDR was the best practices of face-to-face mediation with a neutral, complemented with using to diffuse the emotions, emotional intelligence. Okay. But again, we were using AI to complement. You know, I remember maybe it was you or some of the people in some of your many trainings to say, I don't even really like to know much more than the name of the parties before I walk in. I don't even want to know the background. Okay, I get it. That's how, you almost need it. It's not a legal process, mediation. Okay, you're not there to judge. You're not there to advocate. You're to facilitate a settlement. So that's how we designed TDR, right? That it was a methodology of best practices that technology has to have standards. If you have everybody writing solutions that are all different, there's no standard. It'll never be accepted by the consumer. At the end of the day, we need to build an appetite for dispute resolution. Okay? ADR did not build that appetite. ODR did not build that appetite. Nobody runs out, I'm gonna buy me some mediation, right? It comes from the courts. You got to go. And unfortunately, modern mediation, and I know this is where you and I differ, you make your money from the traditional legal industry, and I make my money poking fun at it's nothing wrong with poking fun. Think about the medical industry, Stanley. My gosh. When I laugh at
I know where you're gonna go.
I know I laugh. You and I are about the same age. Charlie Brown cartoon. Lucy has a booth. 5 cents for psychiatry advice. She is not a licensed, degreed psychologist. She's unauthorized practice of psychology. Okay. Now, I can't go in a strip mall, put a sign out that says, Dave Puckett, I got a cure for cancer. I am not a doctor. Okay. I would be unauthorized practice of medicine. Even if I did figure out a way to cure cancer, I have to go through the medical mechanism and industry to get that cancer cure to the industry. I just can't start selling it direct. The same thing is the fear of unauthorized practice of law. Okay. And so the medical industry, CVS, Walgreens, they got minute clinics all over. You don't think that cuts into the revenue of the shingled doctor practice in each geography? They're all over. If you had 500 patient practice, and next door to you, a CVS comes in and opens a minute clinic, and they can go in on Friday evening and get diagnosed, get their prescription right there, and they're already on the road to cure by Monday morning. They may be waiting Monday morning to call your office. Telemedicine has changed, but the legal industry's held on to this. Telemedicine. I was dating a girl a few years ago. She had a little infection on a Friday night. It was going to deter what we did for the weekend. She called. The guy was in India. I could tell by his accent. That's about it. Looked at her across the video screen, wrote a prescription, sent it to the Kroger's. She got it in an hour, and we would have run the weekend if she hadn't got in front of that infection. Okay. Well, why is the legal industry trying to stop? So at first, it's been UPL. Now it's the fear of AI, the monster. Okay. Because we're hearing motions being written by Chat GPT, right? And that's real. That's illegal. That's unethical. And if you're representing this as your work, and it's not. But if you use it to enhance your work, why is it bad? Okay. We used to go research problems that would take days, weeks to go through all that data. AI can do that for you. Use it in the right way. It is not a detriment. But if it's just got unregulated use, so they tried. The legal industry is technically deficient as a profession. COVID changed that because Zoom. That's back to your question, TDR. Some people now think, the software that we develop is nothing other than Zoom. No, Zoom is a video conferencing piece of capability that's used to connect, to represent connection. And oftentimes, as you know, in conflicts, the two parties don't even need to be in the same room together. If it's a highly contentious divorce where there's violence and that, you probably don't want the two people in the room. If it's two partners that just can't stand each other, and when they get in the room, that feeling, this kind of technology is great. But this is not TDR, this is not ODR, and this is not ADR. It's a convenience, but the software complements. Does that? I know it's a lot. We've only got an hour. I'm in the clouds. You get down to more practical execution. So bring me back down. But I hope that gave you the spirit of an answer to your question.
And my whole thing when it comes to AI, and it's, I'm sorry to stutter when I get excited. AI doesn't, you know what? It is the truth. I'm a techie person. I was born in the 70s. I'm a child of the 80s. All my references in life is maybe when it comes to technology is, Terminator and Starship 1999 and Star Trek, Star Wars. I think all that has a tremendous impact and influence and necessary need. We need that stuff. We need that. Those are the things that science fiction.
Guy, you're the same age range that I am. Did you watch the Jetsons?
Of course.
All right.
And I also
Big
watched
George
Dick Tracy.
Jetson.
Dick Tracy was hot.
Everything that's in the Jetsons is here today,
Yep.
including flying cars.
Hold it out. So I'm all about that life. And plus, I'm a gadget guy. I got all the gadgets. So I'm a 007 secret agent gadget guy, and technology takes it to the next level. So I'm not against it, but there are certain spaces where I think, sorry, the human condition, and you know what I hate? There's some people, I'm not one of them. There's some people who hate, Hate. They hate lawyers. I'm not one of those. But unfortunately, the acts of a few have made lawyers the butt of jokes, from ambulance chasers, sharks, deviants, and whatever else. Unfortunately, that's the way it happened to evolve.
Used car salesmen, and some have better opinions about
exactly. I'm not that, but unfortunately, let's look what happened. Further along in other things I'm producing and doing, we're going to have conversations with people that are experts in legal industry. That, guess what? Biggest thing is what you just said. Chat GPT is writing opinions. They are. People's lives are being put into their hands. And guess what? If it wasn't for that big case where it was found that they did rely on AI, and AI did write that particular case law that AI made up based on the biases of AI, guess what happened? What if they didn't call that out? What if they didn't have a good paralegal, good law clerk on the side, that a good judicial assistant that say, "Hey, judge, I ran that site, and that site doesn't exist." How many cases did that law firm, again, very to-do law firm, thousands of dollars an hour law firm, right? So you're not expecting low-grade work. How many briefs did they write? How many arguments did they present based on AI? Is being used. So guess what? People and lawyers and other professionals like that, you're going to have those few actors that do it. And right now in mediation, I know a handful of mediators who are promoting, not us, but some others, that, I'm sorry, I know the research, I know the work, I know the case law, I know the discipline, where they are doing what mediators shouldn't do, which is manipulate the process for what the mediator wants. I want you to have a settlement because I charge $500 an hour. I want to get this under 3 hours. So therefore, I'm going to press side A. I'm going to press, as a mediator, side B. And they're doing that now without AI. With AI, with the AI component now, they are trying to do even more. So I'm like, just like you, there's a use for it. I think the use for it is more of I'm all about, in my orientation comments about mediation and me as a facilitator of the process. The parties may own the outcome, but we own the process. Here's how we do it. And my job is to not get you to a settlement agreement. That's your job. My job is to get you to a resolution that works for you both today. So AI can help in generating ideas. Yes, it can help in more idea generation and some other things.
Boy, you know, like you and I, we get together, we have so much passion, and it's tough to put you and I and limit time and so, but you just hit a lot there, and I'm getting so excited just listening to you. Let's kind of, for the purpose of the people who hopefully will listen to us. I'm trying to get an opportunity to do a TED Talk about TDR3. And I'm hoping, one of our team members is pushing the organization to give me a TED Talk, and I think I get 15 minutes. So I've got to make it convincing. But let's pick up on what you just said. The TDR document, we keep rewriting it. It's about 30 pages. Nobody's going to read 30 pages about TDR. It needs to be about 3 pages. Okay. I took AI and said, can you read it? It's machine learning. We researched that. We have real references in it, but there's probably some more modern references, some references we couldn't even find the time to find that are good references. Now, just because it finds it, you better check the source before you cite it. Okay, you could be liable even if you're not an attorney, right? Okay, but I said to the system, write a 3-page paper on TDR. And it did. I could have sat there for 6 months and never written, because I didn't think I could get my point across in 3 pages. Okay, so that's a positive use. You talked about a settlement agreement. The settlement agreements, you and I had you know, I the other day at a yard sale, and I was looking about how many conflict resolution books that I had, right, because of graduate school and that. And if any one of those books, somewhere there's 2 or 3, 4 samples of a settlement agreement. There's also an agreement for a mediation agreement or a contract example of a clause for mediation. These things are written by lawyers, and they're often not even understood by the general person. Okay, so you can use AI to assist. Every conflict, I call it a conflict tree. You get the elements. Okay, you can use AI in advance of the physical mediation to diagram the conflict and get the two parties to go, is this your conflict? Okay. One of our competitors, you know, again, I don't want to mention their names without their advice, but he was one of the competitors that had the most patents in this space. And one of his patents he got by accident. He was a practicing lawyer. He litigated, and this particular case went on 5 years. They bled the clients. Both lawyers were part of the process, the system. And this older judge was retiring. And the elder judge says, hey, fellas, I'm not passing this case to the next judge. Y'all gonna settle it. It's been 5 years. So take a piece of paper and an envelope and a pen, go to each side of this room in his chambers, put what you want to settle, seal it, give it to my judicial assistant, and I'm going to render a decision. I'm tired of this. Okay. That caused our competitor, who I have the utmost respect for him, to create one of the first patents in this space, double blind bid. Okay. And what it did is the judge didn't use AI. The judge used forced input. They've been trying to get this case decided for 5 years. They didn't really want it decided because that cuts the flow of the cash off, right? That's how, I'm not blaming all lawyers. I'm just using this as an example. There's exceptions and not necessarily the norm, but that judge. So what AI could do is we begin, and I can't tell too much about our patent because it's just provisional, but we begin by asking what is the conflict by diagramming it, and what do you want to settle? Okay. And the mediator can see that overlap and then work this direction. You know, one of the most powerful things in mediation is the private caucus. Okay. You get the people, you know, they make an opening statement, they badmouth each other. It looks you know, there's no way to resolve this thing. And you get them in private and say, what do you really want? Can I have your permission to share this if you see an opportunity to? So that's what we're using AI for. Okay. That's what we're using technology to enhance. Now, previously, we've talked a lot about emotional intelligence. You know, there's a Myers-Briggs personality test for the last 3, 4, 5 decades. Companies have used the Myers-Briggs measurement of personality to hire people to try to build a culture for a company. Well, similar to that in the practice and science, a subfield of psychology. As you know, I have 2 master's degrees in psychology. So I look at this from a psychological, where you're more practical, emotional intelligence. You know, some would argue, you remember the movie Trading Places. Do you get do you inherit it from your DNA, or do you develop it socially? The Duke brothers made a dollar bet to exchange and trade places. That's what emotional intelligence looks at. 90 to 95% of a disagreement is emotionally driven, especially in divorce. And this doesn't, I'm not going to talk about it in any conflict. And we lose and forget what the argument is, because we don't want to lose. We want to hire Perry Mason or Matlock to represent us and get what we deserve and more. We don't want to win-win. We want to win, right? That's what we want. We don't want him to have that house. He cheated on me. You know, you're blind, but you don't need that house because it's not financially responsible for you to have to win. And so this technology can be used to bring in multiple professions. And an example I'm trying to focus on is emotional intelligence. That if the AI can look at the emotional makeup through the assessment tool for emotion and figure out what the person's emotional is, you can then tailor your approach. When you call Amazon customer service, they're using voice intonation examples. They're using your phraseology. They're using AI to serve you. Why can't we do that in the legal industry? What is wrong with that? Okay. If it results in, you and I, we this week disagreed on win-win. Okay. Well, at the end of the day, you do want to feel like you win. But unfortunately, as you know, in 2000, I think it was 14, we interviewed 500 people who had been through mediation. And we determined that 80+% of the people who went through mediation didn't like the process. Why? You and I as practitioners, we know it's beautiful. It can work. Why did they not like it? Then you look at the type of conflicts. It was primarily foreclosure, personal injury, and divorce. Those are just tough things anyway. Okay. And man, that's a good divorce. Man, I loved that PI case. Man, yeah, if you get a big check, the lawyer likes to put up how many millions that they got for their client. But is anybody really happy? Did anybody really feel? Who goes, man, I had a good trip to the courthouse today. That was just so much fun. Nobody wants to go to our product, avoidcourt.com, right? It's not that we're against the court. There's just some things that don't need to go to court. There's a lady here in Tampa. I won't mention her name. I don't have permission again. She's written a book basically advocating you don't even need to go to court to get a divorce. Why you walk in and get a marriage license? You're all happy and love, googly-eyed, and then you get a divorce. You got to file a lawsuit, and it gets dirty. You got to get lawyers. Why? Well, because we're trying to protect the children, the governance piece, because that's often the people most damaged. But there's also real property ownership and loans and debts and assets that had to be dealt with. So we think, but at the end of the day, a good neutral mediator can get 90% of the emotions out of it, get the two parties in agreement, and then backwardly engineer it to make sure it's legal. You follow me? Does that make sense? It's not. AI is not bad. Generative AI. It's a new term. It's got to be generative. What does that mean? Okay. That means stuff that where data, phraseology, like settlements, opportunities with emotions can all be converged together to put data in front of people that can make them more focused on what this dispute's really about. But again, you know me, we don't disagree on this. You believe this. I don't want to misspeak your opinion, but I advocate old school mediation. That's how I was trained. 2 disputing parties or more, 1 neutral. But once the legal industry got a hold of mediation and arbitration, then there's 2 attorneys. And that's another party representing interest. I'm not saying it can't be successfully done. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But why can't we buy some what I call old school mediation? And that's where I want to use AI. I want to bring us back to what the intent was. Okay. And if the 2 parties can come to terms, then go to a lawyer and say, yeah, what if you got legal advice to understand the legal? Why can't a lawyer sell advisory services like consultants do, accountants do? Most professionals sell advisory. And then come to a mediator, and if there's a legal issue or 2 that need to be resolved in a contract, let the lawyers put that agreement together and file it. It can be a collaborative. We've heard of collaborative divorce. Any settlement could be collaborative. Remember my point just a few minutes ago about the person fighting for the house in the divorce. Okay, have the house, but you can't afford a house. You don't have income going forward. It don't make financial sense because we don't use financial planners. Okay. Poor divorce, this emotional thing. Most of the people, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and people can't afford professionals. But if the profession of counseling can be brought in and be leveraged online like this is, then it can make it way more affordable, and it can be packaged and bundled.
What I want to look at again. I start off by saying again, I don't have an apprehension. I don't think it's not necessary. I don't think it's not part of the future. I'm not saying it doesn't have its place and space and it can be used. My thing is who's doing it, because I see a lot of the bad and the challenging because of what I have done outside of mediation, the things I've been part of, boards for the bar, different things for the Florida Supreme Court, where I'm looking at grievances and I'm seeing certain things and analyzing things for rule revisions. So I'm thinking about, wow, why are they doing this? So I get it. In fact, I do want to dig into a little bit the AI to see how you said something before. A lot of people think I'm very good at mediation. I like it. It's one of my passions, and I definitely do it different than most that I've seen. And part of what I want to do when I think about AI and how, again, I am involved in it, is how I, as a mediator, can use AI to help. This might sound a little bit weird. I'm not sure if it's even out there yet, but it's something I want to look into. Reverse engineer the relationship.
I'm all about reverse engineering. Let me jump in here with this. Here's a thought. Were you a good math student as a young man?
If I'm in the class, I'm a good solid B student. 3 weeks later after class,
did you like math?
I like math.
Calculus, physics.
I like calculus. I was pretty good at calculus.
Wait, I wasn't. Okay. Math is a science. Okay. Now, you can get a degree in math. You can be a mathematician. But that doesn't mean you can teach math to the masses, right? You take a student body, 30 students, you got 5 to 7 of them that are advanced students. You got 5 to 7 laggards, and you got the middle. So in education, we try to teach to the middle, right? But if you think about every math teacher you ever had in your educational process, it's probably easier to name bad math teachers than good math teachers, especially if you're in the middle to the end. Now, if you're an advanced student, if the teacher's trying to teach to the middle, you're probably bored. So that's why you take advanced math, because you're going to be a mathematician. Okay. Now, you're going, why am I mentioning math? Okay. It's sort of the same thing. Okay. How can we use AI? You're a good mediator because you walk into any room, you just got this friendly, calming face almost. That's been said to many people. I do too, I think, but maybe not as good as yours. But you come in and you take control of that room and whatever. You are not, we can't duplicate you. We can't have 100 Stanleys, okay? You can't have 100 math teachers, but there really is one way to teach math in a common way that could get through to the middle and bring everybody together. But unfortunately, mathematicians are mathematicians and they can't speak the language to a non-mathematician. That's the challenge that we need to overcome. It's like the law. Why does the law own conflicts? Do you know there's over 1 million lawyers today? There's 320, 340 million people, depending on what census and what year you go by. Why do we have so many lawyers? Why do we need to make
I know in Florida there's over 110,000 lawyers.
Right. Why do we need so many? Okay. Because it was a profession. It was a good profession. And it still is a good profession if done right. So why are we picking on AI as bad? You've got to take technology and enhance it. We're about technology, enhanced dispute resolution. So we're not using technology to replace the human piece. And as our users get more and more comfortable, our competitors are in the space. We were guilty, Stanley, when we created Settle Now, we sort of created in a vacuum. And so we can put a bunch of technology and we solve everybody's problems. But nobody wanted to buy any. Okay. Because of COVID, prior to COVID, you start thinking, well, maybe we could use this. I don't think any of our competitors have it right. I don't think until we did this patent, we have it. Because it's blending video conferencing. It's blending like the patent, the original patent of double-blind bid and diagramming the conflict, assigning priorities to the conflict. What do you want to settle? What do they want? What do he want? Looking for that overlap, bringing case law if needed, or the law in, or bringing examples of like settlements. You can bring videos in to diffuse the emotions. Mm-hmm. That's a power that an individual lawyer, you're not duplicatable. We can't make 20 Stanleys. We had 20 Stanleys, but one hell of a mediation firm. We'd be the greatest physical mediation firm, but there isn't 20 Stanleys. Okay. So how do we take a Stanley and that? This videos. video technology on YouTube. Why? People understand the two largest search engines in the world are Google and YouTube, and Google owns both. But why YouTube? Because if we want to fix our washing machine and we don't want to call the service guy, we can find a darn video on anything. I just got a new phone, a S24 Samsung, and the clipboard wasn't working. I'm in technology. I can't find how to make a clipboard work. I had to go watch a 40-second YouTube commercial. It was recorded 3 weeks ago because this phone's only about 4 weeks old, to how to use it. You see what I'm saying? That's what we can do in dispute resolution. It's not technology to replace humans. Humans got to figure out a better way to serve. That's back to my example. And again, it's the conversation, not me dominating, but I want to see Florida establish itself as the thought leadership through stipends of multiple graduate students, collaborate around a vision of how to successfully use AI. It's not a bunch of programmers writing a solution. It's not a bunch of lawyers trying to stop it from taking over their income. It's not a lot. And we've got to use it. We've got to rewrite mediation contract clauses to say, let's try this. And if it doesn't work, we go clog the dockets of the court. I don't think the courts are against us. I don't even think lawyers are against it because there's so many conflicts that don't need to go to court. Why can't we begin
I'm
there?
going to piggyback on that because, and you're right, there is a big difference between the industry not wanting it and the industry just not knowing how to prepare for it. And they know where it's going. And here's the reason why I know that. They've changed the jurisdictional amount of cases to alleviate docket sheets. County level cases at one point for 30, 40, 50 years was always 15,000 and below. In the last 3 years, it's crept up now from 30,000 to now 50,000. So they're going to give these county level judges more cases that before were circuit civil level. So anything under $50,000 now belongs to a different level of court, and that's to alleviate and to use that. So they're using their jurisdictional amount to
that's our best entry point right there in that sweet spot, and then grow both directions.
How many? And I'm going to do this research. I have to do it. How many cases are found between the 15,000 or the 5,000 small claims court, 5,000 range, and 50,000 range versus the big boys? 7 to 8 figure cases. How many of those? So,
well, this technology can work for any, but why don't we try? We don't want to come in and just knock everybody out, and we want to begin somewhere. And most important, I made the point about consumers don't understand. Okay. But yet, why don't we try? With what we're doing with the patent, I want to do a game, a conflict resolution game. Okay. This isn't about mediation. This isn't about arbitration. This is sort of a hybrid between electronic negotiation and facilitation. Because what does a good neutral do? He or she facilitates communication between the parties. And let's use an example. Let's say you and I were working together and some intellectual property was developed. And I took that intellectual property and I wrote a book. And I got it published, and you did some research, and you see maybe I profit $100,000. And you're mad because it's half yours. So you're suing me for $50,000. Okay, you hire a lawyer. I hire a lawyer. They're trying to, where did this IP really come from? Was this Dave's IP? Or is this Stanley's IP? Is it half Stanley? Why does Stanley have a claim? Okay, what does Stanley really want? Maybe Stanley wants the $50,000, but maybe what Stanley wants is the credit.
Non-tangible, of course.
Right. And so I'm not blaming the legal profession, but like in divorce, they often say, don't talk to the other party. We'll do your talking. Okay. And your lawyer doesn't know what I want. My lawyer doesn't know what you want. Maybe even your lawyer doesn't know what you want because you're stuck on the 50,000 or 100,000. You're not going, really what I want is that. So if you can come in and say, Mr. Zamor, if Mr. Puckett, and this is where the human element with the AI, Mr. Zamor, you got kind of shaky ground as a legal thing. I hate mediator judges. It goes, if you went to court, my courtroom, this is what you would hear. Well, in a mediation, we don't need to hear that yet. But there's nothing wrong with saying, Mr. Zamor, litigation, you're going to spend $50,000, and you're going to spend $50,000 in attorney's fees chasing $50,000 from Mr. Puckett. Is that really what you want, or do you want what? Well, I want my name on the book. I want my name on the website. I want credit. There's going to be future royalties. All right, this is the type of thing that a good mediator can do in private caucus, and he or she identifies that, right? And that's the power of private caucus. Why is a private caucus so powerful? Is because you, as a neutral, get to talk to both people. Your attorney can't take me in the room and talk to me. My attorney can't take you in the room and talk to you. And you see what I'm saying? So it's to me, the legal industry, it's a beautiful profession, but it's not an all catch profession. Every conflict doesn't need to go to court. But even they hijack mediation through the clauses. You don't even understand what if this contract results in a conflict, the parties agree to proceed to mediation or arbitration in accordance with the best practices of the AAA. Well, the average person thinks the AAA is American Automobile Association. They don't know it's the American Arbitration Association. They don't know what best practices of mediation and arbitration are. Why can't it be we're going to go to a third-party independent service to attempt to resolve this quickly, confidentially, and inexpensively? And if not, you still retain your civil rights, your constitutional rights, state and federal, to go to law, to take the case to court. What if you also have a case that's been litigated, like my example earlier, for 5 years, and you kind of lost a little bit of faith in your attorney? You just want to get it settled. It's draining you. Why can't you just take a time out and come over here and try this? What's the harm? When you're using AI, the cost is so much less. Yeah, poor lawyer, the law school experience is a couple $100,000. You got to pay back those law school loans. You got to pay the rent. You got to put the shingle at the office. You got to have the high rise and be part of the big firm. That's what's driving. Not anymore, Stanley. AI is going to equalize and change the service model.
There's so much more to talk about, but so what do you want? So in the next let's talk about a few minutes, then we can wrap up. Bringing AI to the forefront, because again, the use of, again, as you said before, telemedicine, which is a great example. There are tons of people that are from our master's program, our PhD program, and a bunch of others around the state, around the country, that now aren't using their conflict resolution skills in this space as a neutral. How can AI help them gain that?
That's you threw me a softball. Let me try to hit it out of the ballpark, so to speak. Stanley, we've been having this conversation for years. There's over 100 graduate programs that issue a master's or PhD in conflict resolution, peace studies, etc. You and I are a product of those. That's how we met. As you said, they don't go to law school, but they're some of the best trained practitioners in the psychology and process of dispute resolution. But they rack up $60,000 to get a master's degree, $120,000 to get a doctoral degree, and then they're out trying to sell mediation at $30, $40, $50, $70, $80 an hour. And then attorneys are now in this business and they can't make a living. Now, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. I don't think you've heard me say this, but one of my target clients for this technology in general is AARP. There's 60 million people over 50 that give AARP $40 a year to do what AARP. A lot of people don't even like AARP. I know when I was 49, I dreaded getting the card in the mail. I'm like, oh, that means I'm old. Okay, but
and now on my commercials on my phone, I just turned 51. How does it know?
Oh, it knows everything, right? But now let's think about it. There's 60 million members of AARP, so there's a lot of conflict in the elderly, and we can help them. A lot of fixed income people. We can help them with this kind of technology. But to your question about the makeup of a good practitioner, yes, there's an abundance of people from graduate programs like we have. I don't have permission to mention his name. It hasn't been publicly announced. I'm just going to say this. One of the top recognized negotiators in the world, just like you. He's a physical negotiator. Okay. And he was considered one of the best in his line of negotiation. He's written a number of books and he's a trainer of negotiation. I told him the other day as we were advocating how our two organizations can work. I want to get his, just like you. I harness you for your practical skills of face-to-face mediation and how to technology to enhance it, right? That's the basis of our relationship the last 12 years. This is a new relationship with this gentleman, soon to be announced. And I said to him, I need your advice on how to emulate practical negotiation best practices into the TEDR methodology. He gets that. That's easy. We then talked about AI and how AI can help that. He got that. But then I brought him back to the AARP example. I said, I could take you and my partner, Stanley, who trains mediation neutrality best practices, takes 40 hours to become one in Florida, successfully complete the training and some other criteria. But I said to this negotiator, I said, what we're doing is not mediation and arbitration in the cloud. We're doing facilitation and electronic negotiation in the cloud. Okay. So I said, you could train our case managers. Back to your question. Yes, there's 100+ graduate schools that for 30 years, 40 years have been giving master's degrees, PhDs in this. And these people are underemployed, underutilized, and they don't teach a conflict resolution in law school. I know some are starting to, but I mean, in general, believe it or not, they don't teach emotional intelligence in law school. Okay. And guess what? They don't really teach negotiation, especially negotiation, electronic negotiation. Right. And so that this particular guy, again, I'm not yet privileged to give you his name, but he's one of the best. And we had a long time. He just doesn't like lawyers because he says lawyers don't even know how to negotiate, but we're hiring them to negotiate. So this is a great entry point for AI in dispute resolution, letting them have the ability to diffuse motions and complement electronic negotiation. Because why do you hire a lawyer? Because you might be married to some dominant person, or you might be partners with a dude that don't shut up like me and tries to just dominate everything because of A personality, and you got to have Perry Mason or Matlock to get what you deserve. No, AI can be used in that way. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And also, I mean, we're not going to promote the businesses that we got involved in, but they're the space for people to use AI.
Well, you know, everybody hates our brand, and I don't say you would use the word hate, but for the better part of 2 years, you and I go head to head over. You went blank there. I don't know if you're still recording, or are we still recording? Stanley, are you still there? Stanley.
Yes, I'm still here. Keep going. Keep going. Yes, I'm here.
All right. So you and I have been head to head a little bit on our brand, avoidcourt.com, because I think it's time to go to the consumers and give them an opportunity in cases that don't need to really go to court to just avoid it. And I don't really think the courts are against it because they're already making moves to clear the docket for what you've already described. Okay. So that's not. Now, we've just recently come up with a new brand. We're getting ready to announce a big partnership with a name brand technology company. And that name brand technology company is global, and they serve every kind. So they serve consumers and they serve public sector courts. So the division of this particular house name technology company that we're about to announce a partnership with, they're a little scared by that word avoid court, because they can't sell that over to that. So we came up with, you being Haitian, unfortunately, what's going on in Haiti today, we'll have an independent conversation about that. It's a shame, but such great people, it's a great culture of people. It's anyway. But we came up with rezu, and that's a Haitian Creole word, sort of for resolve. We wanted resolve.com 12 years ago. Somebody was cyber squatting on it for $100,000. We could have bought it. We didn't have $100,000 to buy a URL. They gave new extensions to URLs, and now we have .site, S-I-T-E, and it is a website or whatever. So we now own resolve.site. Well, these two products are front ends. They're websites. to capture consumers or business courts. But the dispute engine, the TDR engine, is the same. When you say open case, you use it to funnel you down and say, oh, it's the same engine. There's one product, but we have two front doors. So if we wanted Florida dispute, or we want Montana disputes, or we want Delta Airlines disputes, you can funnel them down. But when you say open case, try to use it, it's the same dispute engine. That's what we're advocating. Everybody does not need to buy individual products. And that's where our competitors get this technology wrong. Okay. And we've got to get a message out there that AI-driven dispute resolution is not a threat. It's a complement. We need to get pilot projects going to refine it. And we need to get academic think tank and establish Florida as a leader. So, thanks for this conversation. We're going to use this to get our message out a little bit more. But one of the primary takeaways is, we want the opportunity to speak about AI wherever we can to evangelize. We want a dozen law firms to pool their money together here in Florida to help establish Florida. So contact me about that. We're going to have a 501(c)(3), and it's going to have a few people involved in it, but basically it's going to be to put out academic stipends, whether you're a Florida fan or a Seminole fan or a Miami fan. I love Miami. My passion there is because it's a gateway to Latin America. It really brings this part of the world together. Okay, so I want to see, especially the larger universities that have law schools, graduate schools, and social sciences, including conflict resolution, graduate programs in technology, and MBA programs. And put about a dozen students each semester into this academic think tank to develop best practices. That's the starting point of the acceptance of understanding of AI.
All right, well, let's end it for now. I know we could go on for another hour, but I got some other questions for that in other industries that I think this will be very important to, but we can save it for later on. But until then, thank you, David. I know, I feel your passion. I love your passion. This is necessary and needed, and that's the difference that between people who look at this as only a money-making opportunity and have to be capitalized versus those like yourself and definitely myself have a passion for bringing something other or something additional to the process. Not, as you said, not to take over, but just to enhance, not to replace, but just to add additional that might alleviate people's anxiety and this and the third. Get it?
It's not that I want to have the last word, because you're welcome and you should have the last word. But let me bring something very personal. Dr. Becker. I've mentioned him. I believe in him. He's given his whole life to this, and it's just never become to what he wants. And if we can help that, that's part of my motivation. But the equal important part is my mother. My mother was a legal secretary. 1959, she began to study it. She was a little country girl, and she just wanted a place that she could have a profession. And she wasn't embarrassed by the term legal secretary, even though the term secretary is often, sort of a sub-service, whatever. But she got involved in the the Louisville Association of Legal Secretaries. She held every office. She became the president of the Louisville Association. Then she became involved in the state Kentucky Association of Legal Secretaries. She held every office. She became the president. This took 3 decades, Stanley. Then National Association of Legal Secretaries, and then she got married in 1990, right around 1989, 1990. My mom became president of the National Association of Legal Secretaries. My mom was an October baby, Libra, scales, balance. She eat, breathe, and sleep that. You mentioned earlier in this conversation about having a good paralegal, good judicial assistants. They're the ones doing this work anyway. They've been like AI all along. They make the attorney smarter. They make the attorney service their clients better. They make the attorney use his or her education when it's needed, but so much of it is repetitive work. So in many ways, I'm not saying AI can be a mother. My mother was amazing, but my mother got to, by her death, and unfortunately she passed in 2013, she got to dislike the legal system because she didn't think we were servicing with the passion and fairness and affordability that we once had. So all the legal industry has to do is embrace this and serve differently. But they've been serving the same way. No, I don't want to do away with legal secretaries. I don't want to do away with paralegals. but let's use technology to enhance dispute resolution. Thank you
Okay.
for this video. Thank you for the opportunity to evangelize and hope this brings us to it. If we put me and you on the stage, really representing, we could really get this message out that this isn't bad stuff, folks,
No.
and how you can begin to use it. So thanks.
All right, buddy.